much for the opportunity to present at the conference today. A quick overview of BeMetals Corp and our keystone projects and really what we're about. Basically, to have a first look at the board of directors and critical management team of BeMetals. Some names that will be very familiar in this town: Clive Johnson, Tom, and Roger and Dennis, founders and senior executive of both Bema Gold and B2 Gold in the present day. And the real foundation for BeMetals, being a base metal focused company, came around in that Tom Garrigan, Senior VP Exploration with B2, over the years saw a number of base metal opportunities coming across his desk and no way of really capturing that value in focused gold companies in the present world. So he had a discussion with Clive, and they decided that the way to capture that potential value was really starting a standalone company. So there's no cross-shareholding between B2 and BeMetals, just co-directors and co-investors. My involvement with the team came around in a fairly interesting way. Back in the late 1990s, working with a colleague for a company called Anglo-Vol in Namibia, we were doing some base metal exploration in Namibia, looking for copper and zinc deposits. We didn't find copper and zinc, but in a covered terrain, we did find what became the Otjikoto gold mine. That sort of started my relationship with Tom Garrigan. And then after a number of years where I worked for Antofagasta from Chile, the large London-listed copper producer, speaking to Tom, he mentioned that they were looking to get involved in base metals through BeMetals, and I came on board with the team. Derek, who many of you will know in this part of the world, joined us just over a year ago now as our IR investor relations, and interestingly enough, started his career in mining with Bema back in the day. Kristen is a very important member of our team, very efficient CFO and corporate secretary that comes with a very efficient back office staff in Vancouver. And the whole structure of the company really is about keeping the overheads to an absolute minimum and maximizing our money into the ground in exploration and obviously into the projects. During my time with Antofagasta, Richard Solito, based out of London, was our go-to economic geology consultant. And when I got involved with BeMetals, Dick agreed to come on board as an advisor to the company. And from him, we have had a good amount of deal flow. Dick is one of the world-renowned geologists in terms of mineral exploration and economic work on deposits based on practical observation of core. We started the project about 2 years ago now with one of my former Antofagasta projects in Zambia, looking for extensions of the Zambian copper belt. But early on, we wanted to identify a high-grade deposit that we could use as a cornerstone and get quickly into production in a similar manner to really Bema Gold Corp. We really like the look of this project in Idaho called South Mountain. And after a long discussion with the vendors, we structured a deal with them. We have this property under a 2-year option agreement on the South Mountain property, which is a high-grade zinc and polymetallic deposit. Other factors that are important on this property is that it's located on 17 patented claims, so private land. It was a past producer. There was between 60 and 80,000 tons mined out of here in the past. Because of the grade of the deposit, which sits at about 17% zinc equivalent, 14% zinc, it was initially mined as direct shipping ore, and then Anaconda did build a small concentrator on site. And we have the smelting records from that concentrator shipments that back calculate to a head grade of about 14% zinc. It was last mined in the 1960s. There are 2 levels of underground development into the side of the mountain, the Laxey and the Sonneman level. And during last year, our work has focused on being in on the Sonneman level, drilling from underground, and scoping the potential to build up the resource base of this deposit. The current compliant resource is around about 500,000 tons on an all-in basis. But we would like to expand that to around about the 1.5 million ton mark. And then we really believe we can build a small high-grade zinc and base metal, precious metal deposit that will be a meaningful deposit and kickstart a re-rating for BeMetals in becoming a producer. Again, applying that similar model to that of Bema Gold, most importantly. In terms of geology, the mineralization is located in what's called the Laxley Marble Unit, and historically it was described as a skarn deposit. But in September last year, we had our consultant Dick Solito visit us on site, and the realization was that the massive sulfide bodies themselves are preferentially intruded into the carbonate unit, the Laxley Marble. So we would like to reclassify this deposit as really a carbonate replacement deposit, which actually probably does increase the upside of the deposit in terms of its ultimate tonnage. But as I said earlier, the near-term goal for us is to scope out that 1 to 1.5 million tons of high-grade material, and for us to build a meaningful operation on that basis, and then incrementally expand the resource and the production going forward. Deposit, if you take from the outcrop in the east on the Texas zone, which is a little bit of a higher grade copper area of the deposit, to the deepest point that was mined on the Laxley zone, already covers about a 300-meter composite vertical profile. And some deposits that are similar in the CRD environment in northern Mexico are known to extend from surface down to about 800 meters at depth. You see the hole in orange. We'll be putting a news release out tomorrow morning of results of that hole. That again has shown that we've been able to further extend by about 75 meters the DMEA zone, which currently supports the bulk of the tonnage in the South Mountain deposit, further 75 meters down plunge. And it would appear this hole is somewhat on the edge of the mineralization. We are seeing some zinc mineralization, but a common theme of our drilling last year on the DMEA zone has really been that we're seeing an increased gold credit in the mineralization. And we're doing mineralogical and metallurgical studies already and during this year to see what that means in terms of being able to extract that value. That's a little bit easier to see the sort of nature of some of the mineralization that we've pulled out. If you translate some of these intersections into $1 per ton rock value in situ, a number of these intersections are running between $600 to $800 a ton in situ rock, to give you an idea of the value of this material. And going forward, we will probably work the deposit, whilst a lot of the cut-off grades are on visual massive sulfide contacts, which will be good from a mining point of view to preserve the high-grade nature of the deposit. We will be working on a $1 per ton value as an underground cut-off. During this year, further drilling will be designed to produce a revised resource estimate by the end of the year, and during the year also move into the end of this year or early next a PEA study. So as I mentioned, we founded the company with one of my former Antofagasta projects in northwestern Zambia. It's called the Pengeni Exploration Project. I kept close to this project because I knew that the Kalahari sand cover in this area was of a moderate thickness. And in a strange way, the thesis for the discovery potential of this license is similar to how we found the Otjikoto deposit in Namibia. The Otjikoto gold deposit would have been found by German prospectors in Namibia 100 years ago if it wasn't for the fact that it was covered by a thin veneer of calcrete cover that masked all the bedrock geology. In this area, we've swapped out that calcrete cover for Kalahari sand or desert cover, and we're exploring through that covered area looking for potential extensions of the copper belt mineralization. A number of major international companies exploring in Zambia at the moment and have been for a number of years, including Rio Tinto, First Quantum obviously have their operations in that area, and Freeport, Anglo American with a large exploration license situation further to the west of us. But further to the west, the thickness of the Kalahari cover goes over 100 to 200 meters. So the Pangani project, with its around about 25 meters of cover, I felt was an optimum project for a small company like us to take forward. That's a map of the license itself. It's a large license, 575 square kilometers. The yellow color there is the sand cover on the property. And really what this is all about is interpreting airborne geophysics, generating targets for sediment-hosted copper through that interpretation, using very portable air core rigs, punching holes through that sand cover to effectively do deep soil sampling. We did a number of phases of that last year of the year before, generated some strong geochemical targets up to 1600 ppm. And during last year, we followed this up with core drilling. We've pulled out of a number of intersections in the bedrock, range in the region of 5 meters in thickness, and that's close to a true thickness, around about 0.5% copper. And importantly, a number of them have an association with the chalcopyrite of kyanite. And that's what we find in the nearest mine to here, First Quantum's Sentinel mine, which is about 130 kilometers as the crows flies. This is another target that we extended, the southwest anomaly as we call it. We've extended that far under the sand cover to the east. And again, we're importantly seeing that association of chalcopyrite copper mineralization with kyanite and a structural association. And interestingly enough, one, although narrow sample of 0.5 meter returning on a quartz vein type material, but getting us up to 2.7% copper. So really getting some encouraging results from a first phase of core drilling onto this property under that relatively thin Kalahari cover, but certainly very workable in potential still open pit environment. Sentinel mine, which is the closest mine, as I mentioned here, is in the order of 850 million tons at about 0.5 copper. Another similar type deposit in the region would be Lumwana, which from inception would have been about 1.5 million tons at about 0.6 copper. So really some encouraging results. And the way forward here now is what we're doing at the moment is a structural interpretation of the core. And we'll use that to put out grids of air core drilling to try and vector us towards extensions of this known mineralization now and where there might be higher grade material. Most of the copper mineralization we've seen is quite simply chalcopyrite mineralization, common copper sulfide mineral, but we are seeing cores of bornite in with some of that chalcopyrite. And on deposits like Lumwana, they often core the high grade sections of the mineralization. So really encouraging results. Although an early stage project, a project that could land a true world-class discovery, as obviously the majors are looking for in this part of the world. A little bit about the corporate structure of BeMetals. We have a large insider backing and shareholding. A large portion of that 61% of retail there is actually owned by friends and family of the insiders as well. The 9% in grey there is a portion of shares held by the vendors of the South Mountain property. And all in, we're about 100 million shares outstanding, with giving us a market cap of about 25 million Canadian at this point in time. This is really the first conference that we've marketed BeMetals in Vancouver. We were just waiting for the news flow to build up from South Mountain. You'll see more news flow coming out tomorrow and into the future. And we're really starting to increase our marketing going forward now as we have those solid results behind us. So just a sort of value proposition of the company. A team of mine builders and explorers. We get good guidance from the board. Obviously, their main focus remains B2 Gold, but we have a lot of interaction and guidance that's really exceptional experience base for us to pull upon and get guidance from. We're probably different to most of the other juniors in our space in that we really want to become a producer. That's where we see us adding the most value. We have been able to raise 8.5 million in the last 18 months or so in the current challenging markets, but at sensible valuations because of that. And we do get extensive deal flow. So we're always looking at potential new opportunities that we would bring into the portfolio at the right time. And the near-term drivers will be the continued news flow out of South Mountain and the implementation of the next phase of exploration work in Zambia. So there's our contact details. Derek's obviously based in Vancouver, and you can obviously contact him. Please come to the booth. We can have a more lengthy discussion. And thank you for your time and listening to the presentation.